Thank you, Sophie. Good evening. Welcome to Look North. Coming up on the show tonight, hospitals in Leeds forced to repay millions after wrongly claiming care for mothers and babies was safe.
It's just absolutely disgraceful. It's just horrifying. It just goes to show what they're willing to cover up, for themselves. And they're marking their own homework, aren't they, really?
It comes on the same day the health watchdog says leadership needs improvement. Also coming up tonight, the sporting world pays tribute to cricket umpire Dickie, remembered by fans right across the county. No phone signal, often no internet. Life in the North Yorkshire village that can feel cut off from the rest of the world. And can these green-fingered volunteers in Murfield win gold for the 6th year on the run?
Well, more autumn sunshine to come over the next few days, but how long will it last? Join me for that detailed forecast.
Hello there, thanks for your company. Tonight, an NHS trust at the centre of concerns over its poor maternity services has had to repay almost £5 million after wrongly claiming it provided safe care to mothers and their babies. Leeds Teaching Hospitals NHS Trust was paid the money after saying its services met safe standards of care and staffing. Now, also today, the very same trust has been told by a health watchdog that its leadership needs to improve. Our health correspondent Jamie Coulson joins us now. Thanks for your time, Jamie. We're essentially dealing with two stories here, aren't we? Let's deal with the maternity services first. Where are we with that?
Well, maternity services in Leeds have been under intense scrutiny. There was the CQC inspection back in June that found maternity services were inadequate. Last week it was confirmed that Leeds was one of 14 trusts in England that would be inspected, investigated as part of a national review into maternity safety. Then today we've had another CQC report that's looked at leadership at the trust, and that's found that services there require improvement, and it's also emerged that the trust is having to repay nearly £5 million to an NHS scheme that's set up to improve maternity safety, but Leeds wrongly said that it had met key standards. So Angela Welsh lost her baby at the LGI in 2011 and now campaigns with the Maternity Safety Alliance.
They're marking their own homework, they can't be trusted, and we definitely need a public inquiry with Donna Rockerton into the maternity services, and we need a national public inquiry into the maternity service on the whole, for the whole of the country. 2 stories today, it's all the more reason. It's proving to us now and more stories are going to come out, and what does it take for, the health secretary to say, right, we need these investigations? How many more babies need to die? How many more families need to suffer?
I was fortunate to speak to Angela last week. She is a very strong advocate for those families who feel they were failed by the trust. Meanwhile, in this separate story, the Care Quality Commission have had some strong words today, haven't they?
Well, the Care Quality Commission has carried out another inspection in the wake of that one looking at maternity services back in June, but this time it's looked at leadership across the whole trust. And what it's found is that requires improvement. Now, among their criticisms, they have found that leaders didn't always listen to concerns and some staff had negative experiences when they voiced issues. Inspectors also received several in-depth accounts of bullying and harassment in the workplace, which didn't align with the trust's values. However, there were some aspects of good leadership that were identified, including the way in which the trust deals and liaises with other trusts and organisations across the region for patient care.
Now, I think the figure that will make people put their tea down tonight and pay attention is that £5 million repayment. Where does that come from? What's it about? Why is it there?
Well, this repayment relates to the Maternity Incentive Scheme, which is run by NHS Resolution, which is effectively the insurance arm of the NHS. So if a trust certifies that it's met 10 key safety standards, then it's able to get a rebate on its insurance premium and a share of the money from those trusts that haven't met those 10 key safety standards. Now, for the last 2 years, Leeds Teaching Hospitals said that it had. However, when it was reviewed, it was found that it hadn't met all of them. Now, John Lowther is a solicitor who has represented families affected by care at Leeds Teaching Hospitals and had this to say.
By incorrectly claiming money, a significant amount of money, for having met safety criteria where that's not the case. That raises really serious concerns about the care that's being provided and the leadership and the oversight.
Finally, Jamie, what have the Trust had to say?
Well, the new interim chief executive, who's only been in post for about 10 days, has apologised to those staff who say they were subject to bullying or harassment. And he's also saying that this is now a key priority to look at some of those fundamental issues. In relation to the £5 million repayment, they say they're looking at their processes and systems so that it doesn't happen again going forward. And they've got £2.1 million allocated for maternity and neonatal improvements.
Jamie, thank you so much. That has really helped unpack those two stories for us this evening. Thank you. Next tonight, sporting fans across the region have continued to pay tribute to cricket umpire Dickie Bird today, 24 hours after he died at the age of 92. This morning, there was, appropriately enough, a standing ovation at the start of the last county championship game of the season at Headingley, and Ollie Constable was there.
A moment to remember and honour one of the most famous faces in cricket. Dickie Bird knew Headingley well, having umpired here for decades. Up until recently, he was a regular face in the crowd.
Dickie was the kind of person who could just relate to anybody. No matter how much fame came his way as an umpire, and fame all around the world, he was still Dickie Bird from Barnsley. And that was how he related to people, simply because of that.
Today's Yorkshire match against Durham started with an applause, with players donning black armbands. Former players like Kevin Sharp came together to share their memories of him as an umpire and how he almost never gave a batsman out leg before wicket.
I'd never made 100, a first-class 100, and I was 91 not out. I got hit by, I'm sure it was Mike Selvey, the Middlesex bowler. And I'm thinking, oh, that'll be all right. Dickie won't give that one out, and he did. And I was absolutely gutted because I'd never made 100. So I said to him at lunchtime, I says, "Oh, Dickie," I says, "that must have pitched outside. Or you must have hit me outside the line of off stump." He said, "No, lad," he said, "it hit you in line and you're out. And when I give you out, you're out. That's it." So he was always very direct. He's a Yorkshireman.
His usual seat today adorned with a white umpiring jacket and Yorkshire cap. It was here where he'd watched games with the late BBC Look North presenter Harry Gratian, quickly becoming close friends.
Dickie loved coming over and being part of our family Sunday lunches and that sort of thing. Would always come in a suit and tie, no matter how often I told him it was casual. We worked on him many a year before he agreed to come for Christmas dinner. A very special man, and I'm glad he's up there now with Harry and they can continue those chats about Yorkshire and the season that's been.
And Sir Michael Parkinson met Dickie when they were teenagers at Barnsley Cricket Club, forging a lifelong friendship.
It's so difficult to summarise someone like Dickie because he is an absolute one-off. You often say the phrase and don't really mean it, but we will not see his like again, and he is totally irreplaceable.
And thank you for all your memories of Dickie too. Now, how would life be with no internet and no telephone? Is that heaven or hell? People living in a village in North Yorkshire know how this feels all too regularly. There are about 100 houses in Westow, and residents there say they've been dealing with bad internet signal for more than 5 years, and some of them are driving to neighbouring villages to take phone calls. Businesses are sometimes unable to make payments. Lizzie Steele has been investigating.
A picture-perfect village where community is found, but connection is often lost. Patchy internet has plagued people in Westow near Malton for years.
It's really frustrating. Everything that we do these days relies on our devices, whether it's obviously the TVs, our laptops, mobile phones. The fact that we don't have 4G coverage in the village means that we're even more reliant on Wi-Fi.
Sarah and her husband moved here 4 years ago. They work from home and being disconnected has caused serious disruption.
There's been situations where I have said, right, I've got another meeting in 25 minutes. I'm going to jump in the car and I'm going to go and sit in Morrison's car park and do a call there. It's crazy. I think if we had known the true extent of it, we probably would have looked somewhere else, maybe not have moved into this village.
They're not alone. The local Facebook page is full of comments about outages which appear to happen every couple of months. Fibre broadband hasn't yet been installed here, and BT Openreach, who provide the infrastructure, say they have no plans to do so. Even this is being removed. With poor phone signal in the village, sometimes there's no line out.
It's very stressful when it happens. The booking system goes blank, so customers come in and we don't know where they're sitting. The staff can't clock in and out. We can't do our ordering. The biggest issue is the card machine. So we've got to take a phone number and hope that it's a correct phone number and say that we'll ring you when the internet comes back on, which might be the next day. Over the years, we will have lost quite a few payments.
John's lived here for 23 years and explains why he thinks the current infrastructure doesn't work.
There's a microwave link that transmits the data back and forth. The problem with a microwave link is that it's susceptible to anything that can interrupt the beam between the sender and the receiver. So when it rains, for example, if there's heavy rain, that'll break the internet. It'll be out for a period and then come back.
We asked BT Openreach about the problems and they said, "We're aware that residents are experiencing connectivity issues and we're sorry for the disruption. Our engineers are working hard to identify the cause and restore service as quickly as possible. We appreciate everyone's patience while we work to resolve this." While routers remain on, the disconnection in this village is taking them back decades. Lizzie Steele, BBC Look North, Westoe.
Well, hopefully you're still watching Wednesday's Look North. Still ahead on tonight's programme. Staying put, how soaring costs mean some university students are opting to live at home. Now, fire crews in North Yorkshire say a blaze on Moorland near RAF Fylingdales is no longer a major incident. The fire has been burning for more than 40 days on Langdale Moor, and it was brought under control by North Yorkshire Fire and Rescue Service. An investigation into what started it is ongoing, and fire crews are continuing to monitor the area. 4 dogs that were rescued from a filthy house in South Yorkshire are now training to fight crime on the streets in Manchester. The Springer Spaniels have been recruited by Greater Manchester's Tactical Dog Unit, helping search for drugs and stolen items. The 4 dogs were part of 78 discovered living in squalor at a house in Doncaster back in April.
Gone from them not knowing the names, we've gone from them not eating out of a bowl to all of a sudden now they respond to the names, they're playing with toys, and we've now got them searching for the substances that we want them to search for a drugs course.
Now, a game bird which hasn't been known to breed on the North York moors for almost 200 years has now been reintroduced to the national park. Black grouse used to inhabit every county in England, now though the red species is much more common. The Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust has imported birds from a neighbouring upland and tagged them to monitor their progress, as Heidi Tomlinson now reports.
With its distinctive glossy black plumage and bubbling mating call, black grouse used to be found across every English upland, but now only exists in parts of the northeast due to changing habitats and climate. This is Rosedale, a rugged expanse on the North York moors, covered in a carpet of parched heather. Now, you may well spot a red grouse here, but catching a glimpse of the black species is highly unlikely because they haven't bred on this land since the 1840s.
The stronger the bee, that's what it kind of indicates where the bird is going to be.
Tracking tagged birds. In spring, the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust captured and relocated a group of 20 black grouse from the North Pennines to the North York moors. Females were fitted with tags before being released.
We've been busy radio tracking one of the females that we released here. She has a radio tag like a necklace around her neck, which sends off like a frequency that we can pick up with this equipment, and we can use that to track her throughout the year.
The birds were caught using a net at night time in the North Pennines, which is between the Yorkshire Dales and Northumberland, then transported to the North York moors. Footage captured yesterday of a female known as a grey hen and her chick evidence the breeding programme has been successful. 16 birds were fitted with tags, 7 went on to nest, 5 hatched. The numbers have only increased marginally, but it's a start.
In England now there's only 1,000 to 2,000 males, and they're really restricted to 3 Dales in the North Pennines. and that means they're susceptible to weather. And with climate change, we're getting, look at last year, it was horrible, wasn't it? It was a really bad summer. This year's a good one. And we need black grouse in a bigger area so that they can withstand a bad summer.
The red grouse shooting season runs from mid-August to mid-December. During this time, there's a voluntary ban on targeting the newly reintroduced black grouse to ensure this valued species has chance to multiply and remain part of the North York Moors' natural heritage. Heidi Tomlinson, BBC Look North.
Wonderful stuff. Now, with university term back in full swing, rising numbers of students are choosing to live at home rather than move to student accommodation. Some of the reasons include the cost of living crisis and loans not covering all the expenses of being at university. Our reporter Mark Ansell has been to meet a Leeds Beckett student who stayed at home and one who moved out.
Chilea is a second-year student at Leeds Beckett University. She decided to live at home with her mum and sister on the outskirts of Leeds.
So I chose to stay at home. Two of the main reasons was probably to be close to my family, my sister and my mum, and then also the financial burden, because I have a lot of friends that live away from home and I know that their student finance doesn't cover the rent, and it is quite a big thing, you know, having to work and study, and it is hard being a student working and studying because of course university is new to everybody.
In contrast, third-year student Anya is from Sheffield, so could have commuted to Leeds, but chose to live away from home.
I was really interested in making the most out of the student experience. I'd taken a few years out after finishing sixth form, so I had already lived at home for about 3 years, and I was just wanted to see what it was like living in Leeds. It's a really vibrant city, especially doing the arts. There's so much going on.
Around 40% of students at Leeds Beckett Uni live at home. What do you do here at Leeds Beckett to make sure that students who are living at home and haven't moved out feel that they can enjoy this experience of being a student just as much as anyone else?
We try and manipulate our timetable so that if students are travelling in, which is a large proportion of our students, that we try and bunch their teaching so they aren't sort of coming in and out any more than they need to. And to do that in sympathy with the fact that we know that a lot of students, these contemporary students, have to work. They have to subsidise their studies with having part-time jobs. I think is another reason why some students are starting to stay at home, because they already have those relationships with employers that means that they can sustain that additional income.
Chilea feels she's not missing out on the student experience by staying at home.
I'm so lucky that I live in the age of social media, because although I'm not in halls with my friends, I can just Snapchat them, I can text them, I can just send them a snap of myself to remind them that I'm still here. I love being local, and it's not that far for me to get to uni, and it is actually quite nice to commute, because while I'm on the bus I can be looking at my lecture notes, catching up on any work that I need to do. It's not as bad as people think.
It seems whether you live at home or move away, the university experience can be just as good. Mark Ansell, BBC Look North, Leeds.
Thank you, Mark. Now to the big story that has the newsroom nattering. A group of dedicated volunteers from West Yorkshire will find out tomorrow if their town has won a Yorkshire in Bloom Gold for the 6th year in a row. The hot, dry summer has been a real challenge this year for the Mirfield in Bloomers, also known as the MIBs. But despite that, they are up for a Britain in Bloom award in October. With the story, Nathan Turvey.
Digging for gold in Mirfield. This is Carmel and Isaac, who are 2 of 10 teenagers volunteering this year with the Mirfield in Bloom team.
I think it's really important to, get involved in the community and get your hands in and, just really be involved and see what impact it has on others. And I think you also gain a lot from it yourself, especially at my age, like life skills, social skills, meeting new people and forming those connections, and just everything that goes with it, really. And it's really interesting.
Mirfield in Bloom was set up in 2017. Since then, it's won gold every year, apart from during COVID, when the awards didn't take place. This year, they're up for a Britain in Bloom award too.
I'm doing this part of my Duke of Edinburgh Bronze Award, which started in year 9. So during the last school year and over the summer, we came to help out. So you do volunteering I did mine for 3 months, but I think I'll stay on because I met such lovely people.
Keeping these blooms looking good during this year's long hot summer has been a challenge to say the least, but that's only made the team more determined this year to win more golds.
Now, shall we start here then? Spread out.
The person behind it all is Ruth Edwards. She's described as a determined woman who gets things done.
Yes, in fact, one of the Britain in Bloom judges, that was her final comment to me as she was about to get on the train. She said, I've decided that you're the woman that nobody dares to say no to.
A determined bunch full of Yorkshire grit and deeply rooted in the community. 15-year-old Carmel enjoys it so much she's become the youngest member of the Mirthwood in Bloom committee.
I represent all the youth on the committee board, and so I think it's important that everyone is represented and gets their ideas across.
How will you feel if you win?
Oh, absolutely over the moon. But at the end of the day, we do it for the people, we do it for the community, and as we're out working, normally on a Thursday evening, people stop and say, thank you for what you're doing, the town looks amazing, and that's all we need to keep us going.
Nathan Turvey, BBC Look North, Mirfield.
Thank you, Nathan. I have no horse in this race. Mirfield is competing against Keighley, Knaresborough and Todmorden for the towns category, so good luck to everyone taking part. I'm sure everyone has worked really hard. Now, Paul is like a dog with a bone this afternoon. He has got new stats about Reservoir. So strap in, everybody. Tell us your stats.
Well, it's actually very, very dramatic. We covered it slightly last night, but I've got a really interesting graph, Tom, and I'll be asking questions.
I'm paying attention.
I'll finish. Well, this is a graph of reservoir levels. Just pay attention here. So this is an empty reservoir and a full one, and this is the month of the year. And naturally, reservoirs rise in winter and fall into summer. Three important lines. The drought control line, this is this year, 2025, this is 1995. Now, Yorkshire Water do not want reservoirs falling below this drought control line because it could mean further restrictions on top of the hosepipe ban that we've already got. This is the famous year of 1995 when reservoir levels continued to fall. They went on and on and on. It got really quite serious. In the end, they ended up tankering water in from Kielder Reservoir in Northumberland. Back to this year. This was last week. We were at 30%, really close to crossing that drought control line. Look what happened over the weekend. A month's worth of rain in 24 hours, and that is the biggest weekly rise in over 30 years, and it takes us back to where we were at the end of July. So a dramatic rise in reservoir levels, but don't celebrate just yet. The hosepipe ban remains in place and reservoir levels remain at very low levels for the time of the year. There we go.
Sorry, okay, thank you for finished. Please, could you... it does seriously look encouraging, doesn't it? At least it's moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Is it going to move further in the right direction?
Well, there's not a lot of rain in the forecast. I'll come on to that in a minute. Just let me show you a couple of pictures that caught my eye this morning. Look at Burnsall, beautiful part of the Yorkshire Dales. Mist and mellow fruitfulness, I think they call that, at the end of September. And Scarborough was absolutely glorious this morning. Look at that. It did cloud over for a time, but there's a lot more blue sky to come in the next 24 hours. It is absolutely stunning, is that. What a place to be. Right, to keep the pictures coming in on Instagram, on X, and on the BBC Weather Watcher website. And the headline for tomorrow is a really nice one. If you're lucky enough to get out and about, it's dry and bright with long spells of autumnal sunshine. High pressure in charge, so not much rain in the forecast at all. Bit of a question mark. This weather front is going to try and get across us over the weekend. It's a bit of a battle between high pressure and this front, but it does look as though it will introduce at least a shower risk later on Saturday and into Sunday. But as I say, there is some uncertainty about that at the moment. Right, there's the satellite picture. One thing you'll notice is the cloud that we've had this afternoon is clearing away westwards, and look in the North Sea, it's largely clear. So as we head through this evening, any cloud will clear away and then a fairly clear night to come. That will encourage some mist and patchy fog in places, and we'll see lowest temperatures coming in at around about 4 or 5 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow's high water times then in Scarborough 6:43 and again at just after 7 o'clock. So a little bit of mistiness first thing in the morning. Otherwise it's dry, it's bright, long spells of sunshine. There will be a little bit of fair weather cloud developing, especially through the afternoon, but I think many of us will hang on to quite a bit of sunshine right the way through the course of the day, and temperatures a little bit above average for this time of the year, 18. Possible Doncaster through Leeds and into York, that's 64 degrees Fahrenheit. Now Friday, some sunshine, a bit more in the way of cloud, and then we introduce that uncertainty over the weekend, more cloud, the risk of a few showers, but at the moment, once we're clear of that, we go back to fine and settled weather early next week. That is the forecast, Tom.
I'm enjoying this late sunshine. Thank you very much, Paul. Now, before we say goodnight, we just want to bring you a little short clip from the Bard of Barnsley, Ian Macmillan, who's penned a short ditty as an ode to Dickie Bird. From your Wednesday night Look North gang, good night.
It's the final over of the final test, and time is bowling the final ball. And the innings that stretch to 92 will end just here, because it's umpire's call. It's the final moment of the final day. Time's fingers raised, and there's a tear in the eye, because past the floodlights, flying high, there's a lone bird soaring in the Barnsley sky.